Evening, everyone. We'll 7:30, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll do our roll call.
Colleen.
Jack, Board of Health Administrator.
Tom Fichtner here.
Alan Greenberg here. Going to skip over the next item until we have a full board.
Yeah.
So now we'll go to agenda item number 4, good and welfare for the public. If there's anyone in the audience or anyone online that wants to make a public statement, please do.
Say no.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. The tobacco permit for 147 Hartford Ave East discussion.
And I just want to clarify that we do have Karis Town Council on with us tonight. Hi, Karis, can you hear us?
I can. Good evening.
Good evening.
Karis.
We also have the property owners.
Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello.
Good evening,
Thank you for
gentlemen.
having us.
Sure.
Thank you for coming in.
I'm Harry Onesian.
And I'm David Bertazzi, present Harry. Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're basically just trying to see what we can do to move this forward. As you know, we have the building permits, the building's going up, and we didn't realize that we're going to change the distances, et cetera, et cetera. So we're at the mercy of council and the board to see what we can do to try to get tobacco into the gas station.
I mean, I know a number of the regulations that I'm seeing concerning your authority give you the authority to issue variances. I don't know whether you have done that in the past with regard to your sale of tobacco products regulation. I was going to suggest perhaps we could submit a written request for a variance, and then after it was noticed, have a hearing to see whether that might be a means of trying to deal with this.
Is that an item that is you seen specifically in our regulations about?
It's not in your tobacco regulations. What I'm talking about is the Code of Mass Regulations.
Okay.
A lot of the regulations dealing with the authority of boards of health give the authority to grant variances. I don't know whether town council has an opinion on whether that is something that might be viable here.
Mm-hmm.
There is, yep. So there is no authority in these regulations to waive or vary these regulations. And the same question came up in another recent hearing about the ability to waive or vary the regulations. There is no authority here. And I did take a look at other tobacco regulations as well as the neighboring communities, but in other tobacco regulations in the Commonwealth. Not everyone has the same sales, the regulatory distance that is in Mendon's. Some have none, some have 500 feet. The retail proximity and density, that does vary. But these are all based on the state board's model tobacco sales regulations, and they do not include a waiver or a variance provision at all. I don't believe that the board at the current time has any authority to do that. Board, at your request, I did draft some proposed waiver language. If that's something that you would want to consider, you'd have to modify your regulations to do it. And that's a policy decision that you all will have to make.
Suggest that might be a way of dealing with odd situations that they give you the authority on a case-by-case basis to sort of determine, in this instance, the public good and the public health can be adequately protected without strictly enforcing the 1,000-foot distance. And that would, without having to reduce it, without having to alter that, that provision specifically, it would give you the authority on a case-by-case basis where that there's adequate protection to the public health to grant a variance. So I would think that might be a good tool for the board to do its job while not changing the 1,000-foot distance, which, obviously you thought was necessary when you enacted the regulation.
I have questions. You have questions?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, just to kind of review the process here with regard to the project. Now we're talking about this, the new, it's a convenience store gas station
Yeah.
over on 147 Hartford Ave East, right?
Correct. Yeah,
On the Hopedale line there.
correct.
Let me ask you, when did the project start?
We pulled building permits, I believe, in the beginning of the year. Maybe it took a while. We had to go through many site plan reviews to get qualified. And then we started maybe in March. I don't know. I don't have that date, but it was this year.
In March of 2024? No, you mean
No,
last year in 2023?
2023. I'm
Okay.
sorry. As we broke ground, the weather was nice enough this year to kind of build.
Yep.
So we did break ground early on and our permits were pulled in 2023.
Can I ask, in the process, you obviously went before the planning board with the project. As part of that presentation, was there a packet or any kind of questions about the nature of the establishment, for what it was going to be and what the purpose of the establishment was?
I think it was more fuel and convenience store.
Yeah.
So when you say convenience store, typically, especially with gas stations, there's coffee, there's sundries, there's tobacco, there's lottery. I mean, that seems to be what you find commonly on most places that sell fuel.
And with those discussions that were had with the planning board, out of curiosity, do you recall?
I don't know if it was specific to items on the shelf,
Okay,
kind of a thing, but I do know that a few years ago, the town had changed its bylaw on, say, the drive-through coffee or drive-through food.
Yeah.
So we incorporated that into the new plan because we weren't able to do that 10 or 12 years ago when we first had it permitted. But I don't think we discussed particular items in the store.
Yeah.
But basically the generalization of what the store is.
okay, so nothing formally that had come forth as in a business plan type of thing, that it basically categorized what this, entity of this business would be doing as far as products, food,
Other than
tobacco.
convenience store and gas station.
Yeah, okay. All right, I was just curious. And of course, our regulations changed in July? No.
They
January.
were
they-
approved by the board in December of 2023 and
December.
effective January 1st, 2024.
Right, which means they were noticed before that. There would have been a public hearing before the December approval. So probably sometime in November, Jack, they went out for public comment and for a public hearing.
We did not have a public hearing. We just had our Board of Health meeting discussions in September. But after it was approved, then a public notice did go out saying the regulations were going to be going to effect.
Should a
Right.
public hearing have been implemented, Karis?
No, you held a discussion during a Board of Health meeting. That was sufficient.
Okay. Well, that kind of answers what I was, just kind of want to get a little backdrop on the situation.
Jack, when we change our regulations, and for this situation, when we change tobacco regulations, we send new regulations out to all establishments.
Correct.
So anyone that is in the tobacco business Permitted.
permanent, yes,
Gets the new regulations.
correct,
Prior to them going into effect.
correct.
Okay. I guess my question is, if you were going to have tobacco on the shelf, did anyone bother to look at the town's tobacco regulations when you were putting together this whole plan for a convenience store / gas station?
I'm sure we did, and there was no issue at the time because that was not there.
Okay.
So it was always something that as the process went, and we knew we would apply for it when we got closer to, and like anything else, when we're ready to go. And then when we did go to apply, that's when we found out that it got changed just a few months prior. If we had known it was coming, I mean, it's one of those catch-22s kind of a thing. Naturally, we would have done it sooner, but not knowing it was going to change.
I can ask from, so I'd have to assume that from the beginning, tobacco was part of your business plan.
Correct.
And what, just to get an idea from a business perspective, impact wise, if you were to not obtain, after going through the processes that you've been through, obtain a tobacco permit for the facility.
Well, there's still quite a few smokers amongst us, right? So if they know they cannot get sick, it's kind of that one-stop shop. I'll get some gas, I'll get a sandwich or a coffee, and I'll get a pack of butts. And if they know that they cannot do that here, they just may go to another station. So it will affect us.
So not just the loss of the sale of the tobacco, it's the loss of the other sales that go along, folks that decide it's more convenient to stop somewhere else.
I think in the past, the board has always tried to be very careful on the exceptions to the regulations. We had a recent situation where someone wasn't following the tobacco regulations and we had to suspend their license for 7 days. If we start going down that road, we have to do it for everybody that comes along. So at this time, I'm not inclined to adopt to our regulations any sort of mechanism that would allow us to do a waiver or make an adjustment to this regulation. Tom?
Well, I know that we don't have the full board present. We have one member that was not able to be at the meeting tonight. I would not, at this point, want to make an actual vote this
I agree.
evening. I would like to have the full board present and have the full board have the opportunity to discuss the situation. And they'll have the opportunity with Karis here tonight to view this meeting prior to the next meeting, to take in what was said and discussed here tonight. Karis, is there anything additionally you might want to add into the conversation from your perspective?
I think that I gave you all some of my thoughts in the email that I sent to Jack earlier today with the with a suggestion if you would wanted to consider waiver language. So if you all took a look at that, that should cover most of my thoughts. I think the only other thought I had was I think there was originally there was a request for a grandfathering type action, and in this instance there isn't anything to grandfather because there's no permit, there's no right that's been perfected. So I think what the applicant is really looking for is a waiver of, or, a variance from the regulations, and that's something that's entirely within your discretion, and I think your instincts are correct that it should be a decision that you all make together if you want to do that, and you will have to modify your regulations to allow for that. So it's a multi-step process before anything can happen that would impact this particular application.
Would if that were to happen, could that be done in the context of a normal Board of Health meeting environment? Or would there have to be any kind of a public hearing element involved?
You would just have to have a meeting where you discuss, where you have provided and discuss the revisions to the regulations, and then you would have to, vote to adopt a revised regulation if that's what you wanted to do. And
Okay.
we could discuss the actual language of the regulation at that subsequent meeting, if that's something you wanted to do.
Okay.
Could I ask a question just by way of clarification, because it's not entirely clear from the regulation? Does the business that you're measuring this 1,000 feet from have to be in the town of Mendon? Or, because I believe that the business that we're talking about is in Hopedale, is it not?
No, I think they're talking about the liquor store.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sunny Farms, which is across the street on the other side, on the left-hand side of the property.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh.
All right, so that is Mendon.
Yes, that's
It's
Mendon.
funny over there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You raise an interesting question that considered, I believe we just say 1,000 feet. I don't think
It
we
just
say.
it says from a licensed.
Right.
Yeah, so their
License
policy is
would be Mendon. 'cause
Mendon
we-
permits.
Our jurisdiction is only the town.
Mendon's jurisdiction, correct?
So which is kind of.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. But look at what would fall into that category anyway.
Yeah.
So is that lot line to lot line? Is it business door to business door?
Lot line to lot line. It's roughly 375 feet from lot line to lot line right now.
On those two pieces.
Mhm.
You're thinking about asking Liquor World to move?
No, I like their location.
They have a nice location.
And I just want to say, and I know it's a difficult decision for all of us here, but we've invested a lot of money. We're trying to make it, if you've been by the building, I think it's going to be a stately, wonderful, gas station, the parcel of land, the way it's situated, the way it sits. So we're millions and millions of dollars into it. And I understand timing is everything in this moment in time. We it happened to go the way it's going. So if you can consider, looking at it in that way and just helping out the people that stop there, that's all we're asking for. It's just a little consideration along those lines. That's all.
Where are you, out of curiosity, with the project as a whole?
I'd say maybe by August to be open. The building's coming along, they're grading right now, getting ready to asphalt and pave and things like that. But construction is difficult, as you may or may not know in today's world, so even the best schedules sometimes go awry. And, but we're hoping to have it open soon.
I'm fine with the full board. I just wanted to, that's the way I'm leaning at this time.
Yep.
It's, like I said, the minute we start backpedaling, unfortunately, we have to make sure that we're in a position to do it for everyone in a similar situation. And at this juncture, we would have to rewrite our regulations.
Well, I mean, giving yourself the ability to grant variance, it doesn't mean you have to give a variance to every person who comes in. It gives you a tool to work with when you have a situation where it might be appropriate versus a situation where there are 5 all in a cluster and, you know, maybe it's not appropriate. in that
We have variances in some of our other regulations, like septic system regulations, Title V regulations. You're a builder, you may have even applied for one in town, you know, distance to groundwater, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially in Mendon. So, you know, we do have them in other regulations, and it does give us a little bit of, you know, ability to move within, as long as we follow the state regulations. We'll wait for the full board.
Yeah, I mean, I come from the standpoint, I'd like us to know that we're doing, what would be the right, proper thing to do for the folks and the entities involved, right? So I know sometimes you have regulations in place and, you know, when they were done with certain ideas in mind and whatnot, right? And was everything factored in when those regulations were created? And is there potential for room for something like this? That's where I'd like to see the full board kind of have a discussion about it and, you know, kind of talk that through and whatnot, you know?
More than fair, more than fair.
When's the next meeting?
Next meeting would be June 26th.
June 27th.
Put that on the agenda for that meeting. Okay.
Hopefully the Celtics won't be playing down there.
Well, the Bruins are done, unfortunately.
No, the Celtics.
Good, good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. for your
Thank you.
consideration.
You're very welcome, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Karis. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Karis.
Karis,
Good
thank you very
night.
much.
Have a good night.
Good
All
night.
righty.
Right, with that said, we will move on to our. Actually, folks, do you have any comments?
That topic.
Okay,
Interesting. Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I appreciate you coming out in person.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to the next agenda item, the Board of Health 2024 Scholarship Review and Award.
Again, you want to wait for the full board?
Want to wait for Joyce to
Can do.
participate? Yeah, so
All right.
next.
VNA agreement.
I received the 2025 fiscal year contract from the VNA. Same services, no price change. Looking for the board's review and the chairman's approval.
Okay, do we still have, same staff?
Yep. No changes in services at all.
Can you tell me if this is an exact replica of last year's?
I didn't compare it to last year's.
I would just be curious to see, before I confirm this, what was put forth last year and actually the year before.
Okay.
I mean, I know that this would kick off July 1, right?
Yes,
So we have at least
we could do it in June 26th.
on the June 26th meeting. And in the meantime, I'd kind of like to do a little homework,
Okay.
you know, from my perspective. I don't know about you, Alan.
No, that's fine. I think my main concern is that, Ann Labonte is still our
Correct.
contact. She's been wonderful.
Mhm.
We've been with her for a long time, and we've had a lot of hiccups along the way in the public health world, and she's been a real trooper, so I
Yes, she
do
has.
not want to lose her.
Okay.
But yeah, no, absolutely. If, good point, Tom. Make sure that, everything appears to be the same and not just the number.
Yes, this just appears kind of a little too general, to be honest with you, for my liking. Doesn't talk about what I think should be some other specifics that should probably be in here myself, but so I just wanted to see what we had. Kind of,
Pretty straightforward. I said it's pretty straightforward. It encompasses all of the services. I don't,
Yeah.
unless there was something specific that you were looking for.
is an agency representative now, that mean that Cheryl becomes a contact, just out of curiosity, in place of Ann? Or will Ann still remain as
And it's still my main contact for the VNA.
okay.
Yeah, no, I don't see any reason why we can't match it up against
That's
the
fine.
last 2 years.
I'll
prior,
grab those.
just to make sure that the language is the same. It won't take long to do, and
No.
next meeting we can sign it. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't think they're in a rush, like, they're not worried about it.
Yeah, a lot of times we end up chasing them.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Okay,
so this is fine.
all right.
No, Tom, good point.
I'm just kind of curious too, why, the letter's dated the 15th of May. We didn't get it until 15 days later. I'm just kind of wondering why there was such a lag time.
Because I think Ann Labonte personally came in and saw me to hand it to me. So she may have had it since May 15th, or God only knows when Cheryl gave it to her.
Well, just a point,
So get shifted to the next meeting. We're gonna go to old business. Blasting concerns at 4549 Uxbridge Road and well water discussion. Come on up, folks.
We know one of you, that's Peter.
Yes,
That's Peter.
That's
Peter,
Peter.
yeah.
Yes.
So you're on number 66.
yes,
All right, and
Yeah.
you're,
Andrew, at 56.
okay,
Peter attended our last meeting.
how can we help?
So, so Peter Lyman, 66 Uxbridge Road. I did share some data, our initial, raw well water analysis done by, company contracted, but the analysis was done by Alpha, and then some of it was subbed out. So, so I think everything as far as, there was nothing, no nitrites or nitrates, and I think you've shared some of the blasting
Yep.
data. So it looks like they're using aluminum nitrate, right? And then there's some other things like there's aluminum for detonators, and there's all kinds of parts to this thing. It's not just the explosive, but
Yeah, the blasting caps.
yeah, blasting caps. So, so definitely no perchlorate. And I think both of our data showed that there was no perchlorate in the raw well water. So,
Did you get your well results?
I did.
Analysis?
Yeah.
Would you mind sending those over to the Board of Health?
yeah. And I'm compiling a table just to have.
Oh, good, all right.
Bars, to share. So actually I did have a positive coliform test in ours. Yeah. For ours at 66. So they were taking the water from an outside tap and they ran out, they put their own hose on that. So they took our hose off, put their own hose on there, ran 50 gallons out. Okay, so it wasn't done from the kitchen, tap, right? It was done right out. So, and there was no, we have filtration stuff, so we bypassed everything. So it went from the tank, bypassed a neutralizer and went right out to the outside tap. So they did that for everybody. So they took 50 gallons out before they tested, and they had all different bottles for different tests. So they seemed like they were well organized as far as that goes. We do a lot of filtration. We have a neutralizer, filter softener, and then we do RO for drinking water. So,
Yeah, that's a lot.
so as far as, and that's been that way for many years. So as far as coliform goes, there was no E. coli. They just say whether there is or isn't. There's no data to say what the concentration is, right? So obviously we have no problem with our drinking water. We do cook with unfiltered, non-RO water as far as like cooking pasta in a pot, just, use that regular tap water. But I was planning on doing my own test, do another test from the inside tap as far as that. Because I talked to our filtration, the company that does services our equipment, and just said that they don't clean the tap, or if you didn't clean your kitchen tap, if you did from the kitchen tap, you would take the aerator out, do an alcohol wipe, right, to sanitize it before you ran any test water. So we recommended that I get another test done on my own, just doing it that way, because that's ultimately what you would do. That has nothing to do with what's going on across the street, but if you did look at it, you might have noticed it. But we did talk about when we would get another test done. Kind of wondering about how that would, what's the right time period, because it's for, presumably we're all on ledge at some point, right? So across the street, our neighbor has ledge in his yard, another neighbor has ledge in his yard.
I had ledge in my yard.
Yeah, so, the guy that did the water testing or took the samples, geological surfaces, I think they're up in Lynn. So he made a good point about that. The water can move through cracks, okay? So it could be like a plumbing system, so it could move quickly. And therefore, maybe we want to get it tested sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think on that point,
Yeah.
I don't know much about hydrogeology. I, tried to look into this, but I think like the one thing that I do know is that it's variable, right? Like it's not groundwater is not going to travel consistently across one space to another. And I think that that's our concern here is, or at least mine, I don't want to speak for Peter.
Yep.
That the post testing, the post analysis, first problem is that there was a lot of pushback from the individuals at the beginning to saying, oh, we aren't going to do any post testing. Like there's no reason to do that. We later found out that they are going to do it. They're coming up with some number, whether that's 45 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever it may be. But at the same time, like we just mentioned, groundwater can travel at different rates, and the toxins from the blasting agents are, at the same point, are not always going to reach groundwater at a certain time frame, right? I think we all can agree on that too. So our question is, one point in time, it's arbitrary to begin with. How are we ensuring that the actions that are occurring across the street aren't going to have longer term effects that we don't see at 45 days that we might see at 3 months or 6 months or 12 months? It's an undue hardship to us. I live 60 feet away from where this blasting's happening. My well is on the front side of my house. I have a 16-month-old daughter, a 3-year-old daughter as well. Some of the blasting agents have significant effects on children. I mean, just the nitrate alone can cause methemoglobinemia, very severe that causes blue baby syndrome. It's not safe. And the only right thing to do is test. And to ensure that we can mitigate anything that pops up. So I think that that's like my question coming to you all, is that we've tried to go down different paths with this. We talked to the fire department, because they are the department that issues the permit. They stated that specifically they are only around like the blasting activity itself, like making sure that the agents that are used are within their regulations, that they're doing it the appropriate way. But wells are outside of their jurisdiction. The Conservation Commission back in, I think it was 2020, is that Carl?
Yeah, that's Carl Hummel, who's online with us.
Yeah.
Hello, Carl.
Thankfully, when they originally got their Conservation Commission permit, it was stated that well testing should be conducted. It was at that point a statement, but with no clear plan in place. And I don't fault the Conservation Commission. It seems like that is outside of scope because it's water. So that's why we're going to the Board of Health to hopefully identify what this plan looks like. Outlining, is this just really going to be a 45-day post blasting well water testing, or should we do the right thing, in my opinion, having it more, spaced out? So if it does contaminate our water in 6 months, I don't have to find out about it when my baby's turning blue,
Well, I do believe from the last meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Joyce actually kind of echoed the thought that in addition to the 45-day that was talked about, doing additional testing after that.
Yeah,
Feeling that, just from the point you raised, that there is no set time frame when potential contamination could make its way through. So I would.
Carl has his hand raised.
Yeah, I can speak to that because, and the reason I'm here tonight is to make sure that the concerned citizens don't get caught in a crossfire between the Concom and the Board of Health. We discussed this at the Concom meeting, and the site manager for the applicant is very clear in saying that they will they have agreed to do a single round of testing at 45 days, but they are not planning on doing any further testing. The Concom doesn't have any further jurisdiction than the single round of testing because that's all that we have our ability to impose as part of their order of conditions. Um, and
I do want to, if I may, Carl, push
Yeah.
back on that notion because in the order of conditions, it stated well water testing would be conducted. It doesn't have a specific actual statement that says only one post test can be conducted.
and now I get to air some of the Concom's dirty laundry. The order of conditions is defective. It was not filed in a timely fashion, and therefore there's a lot of legal ambiguity over whether the Concom would have jurisdiction in order to write additional enforcements, and our feeling is not. And the applicant has demonstrated a willingness to have his attorney show up at our meetings. So yes, the Concom could pursue that if the Board of Health wants to toss it back to us, at which point we would engage town council and have our lawyer, the town's lawyer, start negotiating with their lawyer and come to it. So this is part of why I'm here tonight, to make sure that there's not just the Board of Health bouncing it back to the Concom and the Concom saying going back to the Board of Health.
Go ahead, Al.
Carl, we would never shoot at you, we promise. I'm sure the Board of Health, would be more than willing, to work with the Conservation Board and yourself. I'm going to, this is not a normal blasting operation. I would consider what's going on over there to be on the larger scale. This isn't a resident that's putting in a built-in pool that hit ledge, that needed to do some blasting in order to get their built-in pool put in. I mean, how many days is this going
Started on the 22nd or 23rd. It's been going on since the middle of May.
Right,
Every,
I think it's good until the end of this month. They can
Okay,
blast
and I'm sure the applicant realizes that this is not your normal residential blasting operation. So I would say based on that, it does require a little more attention for a longer period of time. So I mean, whatever is fair and reasonable,
I think we should work together, you know?
absolutely.
and,
Yes,
um,
we can definitely have our agent Isabella working with Jack and Dylan and having them make a pitch to both of our boards, and maybe have the select board get us a referral with Karis so they can consult with Karis on how the two boards and the town can come back and make a request for additional rounds of testing.
And I would,
The other lesson learned is that one of the benefits of having Isabella now as a full-time agent is she's now coming up with a 10-page order of conditions with all sorts of paragraphs that get swapped in and out, and we are going to be using that more moving forward. For example, on the Hastings Street project, we're currently working with them on their order of conditions. So we've learned from this.
May I ask, do you know roughly how many wells are affected by this blasting?
So how many butters,
Properties.
basically, right?
How many properties roughly?
Well, I'm sure
Yeah,
Brady's
like 5,
next,
10.
across the street, right?
Yeah, that's
They're
on
right
my-
next door.
Yeah, and then Rodriguez right next to me, and then
Okay,
the one next to them.
so.
I would say like 8 to
7.
7.
Yeah,
8 to
Yeah,
10?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so at least 8,
Yeah.
right?
And in addition to the wells, I mean, this has been, my biggest concern, and I believe yours as well. I have a septic system, that's pretty darn close to the blasting site as well. It's not obviously deep, but I'm concerned that if no one has looked inside the septic pre, I believe like that should probably have been done, and it was oversight on my fault for not asking about it. But inside the septic tank itself, like there was no analysis to ensure there's no cracks before the blasting. Blasting is happening, 60 feet away from this septic tank, and we're right on the lake as well. So it's from a Board of Health standpoint, but also from a conservation standpoint, that if there is damage happening to my septic, in addition to the groundwater contaminations, we won't know about that unless there's some sort of inspection on the tank being done as well. And I can get in there with a camera, but I don't know what I'm looking.
Maybe the person that services your system would be able to assist you with that.
Yeah.
We'll probably try and get a benchmark on it sooner than later, in case there does a crack or something does develop, you'll have a time frame.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So this blasting was supposed to affect a depth of, I recall, somewhere up to 2 feet,
It
Is
said it
that
was shallow,
accurate?
2 to 3 feet.
2 to 3 feet. I'm
Yes,
just
they,
kinda
they
won-
need to get, 2 to 3 feet below grade so they can put in the infrastructure for the parking lot.
Okay,
Right,
I
so
was
they
just
still-
kind of wondering if we knew what, working within those, within that depth, what kind of, from an engineering perspective, what kind of reverberation would be experienced? Or would be expected to be experienced underground from that only, working only within a 2 to 3 foot?
We'd need to check with the fire chief and see what expertise he would have on that. My understanding is that we have one of the best demolition blasting companies engaged, who is very professional and has been highly recommended. And so I'd say if we want to know more details about what's technically going on the site, we'd ask the fire chief to give us a reference.
Actually, we're gonna be meeting, Jack and I are gonna be meeting with, Mr. Reardon from Tetra Tech in the morning,
Oh, excellent.
so we can ask these questions.
Okay, is that the blasting company?
No, it's, the,
Project manager?
yeah,
He's the new site manager,
Okay,
yes.
because I was gonna say, I mean, why not ask for a representative from the
Yeah.
blasting company to come to either a Board of Health or conservation meeting and explain? Because 2 to 3 feet doesn't sound, that sounds pretty shallow to me. But I don't know what the benchmark is that they're going off for that, to get to that 2 to 3 feet.
It's also the shock waves, right? Like just because like an epicenter is in one place and it's more superficial, doesn't mean that the reverberations don't result in fissures, that can impact groundwater. So to your point, like I'm again, not a hydrogeologist by any means, but just because something might be superficial doesn't mean that there's not going to be impact. And I think it's unfair for them to even claim that there's not an impact, because they don't know. They don't know what the geology underneath the dirt is, and and they won't be able to tell where the groundwater is flowing. So
Well, as Kyle said, they did hire people that are experts in their
Yes.
field.
We
So-
would want to have someone from that company coming and talk to us further.
Yeah, I
The,
mean,
the other thing the Concom has jurisdiction over is stormwater and making sure that the blasting runoff doesn't contaminate anything. And we've had our agent out on site, and after talking with the police chief, there isn't a significant problem with stormwater blasting. There is more of the concern with the groundwater stuff, which would show up in the future weeks. So that's another reason why the Concom is taking a stepping away and hoping the Board of Health will take the lead on this action.
I'm happy to do. But working in tandem with you folks, the
Yes.
board.
And Jack and Dylan and Isabella all work in the same office, so that's not an issue.
so what if we had some sort of either we appear at conservation or conservation appears at one of our meetings, and we see if we can get a representative from the blasting company to come and speak to us, to give us their educated view of what's going on over there and how it all works, so that we understand it, all of us understand it.
The next Concom meeting is 2 weeks from tomorrow. because tomorrow night we're having our meeting. When's the next Board of Health meeting?
26th.
26th of June.
Okay, then I think it makes more sense to ask someone to engage at the Board of Health meeting, because you do have a stronger jurisdictional case. And then I would attend and we would see what other Concom people were interested in attending. If it's more than two, then I have to post it as a public meeting for the Concom as well.
Talk to one, like I said, we're gonna be speaking with Mr. Redden tomorrow morning.
Sure.
And we can discuss these concerns and ask him himself if he would appear, as well as I can contact the drilling company.
And I would be curious to know, in a similar scale blasting situation as what we're experiencing, what protocols were followed in a situation like that as far as post-testing, pre-testing, duration. Let's see if there's any map out there already that someone has already designed, some protocol.
Especially
similar-
given the proximity of Lake Nipmuc.
Yeah,
I'm sure they don't do that much blasting near public waters like that.
well, I mean, it's very possible that the blasting company that has been engaged to do this project would have that information.
Absolutely.
Or main drilling and blasting is right in Milford.
Yep.
So it's very possible to talk to a representative there and
They're
see.
the ones blast.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yes.
So I'm trying to think of the other blasting companies. The A1
Yeah.
is another
No,
blasting.
we've spoken with the Milford office. They get right back to you.
Okay, yeah, so I mean,
immediately.
if they're getting right back to us,
Mhm.
then there should be no problem. And again, I would try to prepare them with that question so that maybe they could bring some protocols to show us that have been followed in a similar situation.
Out of curiosity, I know a couple of things from the last meeting that we were gonna look to obtain. I just wanted to verify if we got them. I know pre-testing blasting results was one thing.
Well, the chief sent them all over and I forwarded them to Peter and to Mrs. Hackinson.
So I think the application was the other. We
Yeah,
obtained.
but that's all, it was all forwarded.
We got what we
Yep.
were looking for.
Yeah, oh yeah, the chief's been, right on it. I
Great.
mean, the line of communication is open, it's
Great.
fluid, and even.
Yeah.
Even with Peter and Mrs. Hackinson too, whatever we had,
Right.
we shared and we're happy to share.
Okay.
Well, that's great. I mean, we got a local company right down the street,
Mm-hmm.
that's been around, for a long time. And we're all on board with wanting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what we can put together for our next meeting. And of course, give conservation as much advance notice as possible in case they have to post it as a meeting. Attending.
Yeah, well, that's plan on our next board meeting and we'll have whatever information we gather, we'll share for sure.
And we have everybody's email, so.
Oh, yeah.
You just said that he give me the
Yeah.
idea.
I do want to note that the gentleman that's working for Tetra Tech or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Redden.
yeah, he was not pleasant to talk to about this. And he is not on the same page as we are regarding the post blasting analysis. There was, like, I get frustrated even thinking about the conversation that I had with him. Voicing my concerns. He was like, this is none of your business. Like, this is what we're doing. Like along those lines. And that kind of got me heated.
And when was that conversation?
Right. So we received letters in the mail from the previous project manager. At that time, I called that individual and asked, what was the well water testing plan? That person, I guess, got fired and replaced by this new gentleman. He reached out 2 weeks before the blasting saying, this is the blasting date. That we're gonna, or was it 2 weeks before the blasting dates in 2 weeks? Someone's gonna come out and test your well water, next week. And didn't really give us much time to prepare for this. It's just saying like, this is the day you better be home. If you're not home, essentially that's the vibe that I got. Made sure I was there, got our well water testing done because again, it's either a take it or leave it situation. And I said, well, when are we going to do the post follow up not gonna happen, you know, so on and so forth. Had that argument. Tried to ask about, you know, what is he basing this off of? And he, again, wasn't based off anything. The point that I'm just trying to make here is I thankfully I see that you all are on the same page as us, that we, you know, just trying to take in the consideration the health of our community and the individuals that live here, and I appreciate that. Some people that might be involved in this project might not have that same thought. They might be thinking about it from the standpoint of that real estate mogul trying to do something across the street, and don't want to spend a couple extra dollars to test our well water.
What was that gentleman's name? Okay, yes,
Mr. Reardon, Sean Reardon,
John.
Sean,
John?
yep, and that's who I'm meeting, yeah.
Okay, so you've had conversations with him and you're gonna meet him face to face. Okay.
Mhm.
How was it going with you?
I mean,
That's good, I'm happy.
Right.
well, you know,
So fat,
yeah.
you know what I mean? But the thing is that, you know, honestly, at the end of the day, you know, I mean, the board is just seeking the information to relay to our residents because we, like you, are concerned with the public health and welfare of our community. And that's something that the individuals across the street also need to understand and so far have appreciated.
That's great.
So let's see what happens tomorrow and, you know, and we'll move forward.
Would I be,
Whatever information we have, we should, you know, we'll be happy to share, just so that you have that peace of mind too, because that, you know, I mean, that's part of our purpose.
Thank you, that means a lot.
would I be correct that the communication you had happened prior to the communication you had? Do we know?
I don't know. I mean, I've communicated with Mr. Reardon through emails, and, had a telephone conversation with them. And, we'll be having a conversation with him tomorrow about an issue that was discovered while they were blasting across the
In
street.
your communication, what would have been within the last, say,
It's
couple,
been ongoing,
well, like time frame in over the last month, the last couple of weeks,
just 2 days ago.
2 days?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, you recall when your communication took place?
Yeah, it was roughly like second week of May.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at is it's quite possible that, given it now, this gentleman is aware that the Board of Health is involved in the communication.
Great.
Maybe he's taking a little different viewpoint as opposed to just a resident,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Agreed.
So,
Well, other boards too. I mean, we've all worked together, the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
The Fire Department, Police Department, Board of Health, we've been in constant communication with you guys too. Anytime that
Yep.
you guys had questions, we got you your answers. And, you know, and that's just how we operate, you know, and we forward progress to compliance.
And I personally greatly appreciate that all that this committee has done, and Conservation Commission and the fire department definitely thinking about our best interests. So thank you for that.
question, I noticed on this document we got from Alpha, it talked about the client being Langdon Environmental. Do we know who Langdon Environmental is?
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I think it has, that would be my data for our house, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're just trying to
yeah,
connect,
I was,
connect the dots.
I was confused about that.
Okay, got it.
Because there was Geological Services was collecting the samples, not Alpha. Alpha did it, and then Alpha,
They subcontracted.
then Alpha would subcontract out things that they're not doing, like
Correct.
maybe the perchlorate measurement or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. And it was in there who they subbed it out to, so I think it was pretty detailed, but
Yeah, I know, it looks like they
Yeah,
subcontracted to a group
right.
called Eurofins.
there's a
for
lot of
portion.
information there, so.
Yeah. And I take it that it made reference to multiple locations for the lab. I just take it that they must work with different lab locations to get the data broken down.
Yeah, they have
Okay.
Westboro, I think, and then
Yeah, they
they have
mentioned
Mansfield.
Mansfield.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just trying to
yeah,
understand.
I know, they're pretty big. in that respect.
Okay.
So
All right. Thank you.
I did have one other aspect of this project that has been, as far as I'm concerned, and my wife is concerned, and our neighbors concerned, another Board of Health issue is the noise.
You referenced that at the last meeting, actually.
This project is over a year old as far as clearing the trees they were clearing trees away from Route 16 over a year ago. And then about a year ago, they started clearing in front, and then the jackhammering started every day during the week. And that was probably more unbearable than blasting. So I don't know if you've ever been in a property that is adjacent to blasting, but the house shakes, you know, it's really jarring. It's unbelievable, you know, that
That your foundation doesn't crumble.
well, you're, you know, it may not crumble right now, but you know,
It is.
but it's really unbelievable that they allow that. But anyways, that jackhammering was going on. So prior to this project, they didn't know what they were dealing with in that ledge. They got so far with it. And then they realized that this stuff isn't going to work anymore. So now they're blasting, and then they're still jackhammering because they have to break up the stuff that they loosened up. And it's been unbearable for my wife. Neighbor Karen, she's not here, but I can attest that it's really affected her. My wife will not go out for a walk during the day when that hammering's going on. So, you know, this is kind of open-ended, you know, and I think I mentioned this at Concom about what about our habitat, right? When these projects are taking place, what about us? You know, this whole thing, we followed it from planning board, Concom, all the way through. And we were against it for many reasons, you know, the lake being the number one reason, because we're downhill from it, you know, that was our number one concern. But the noise has been unbearable. All right. Now, we're not hearing it as much now, but if you were around, and anybody on the lake will tell you the same thing, everybody heard it, and that sound would travel across the lake, and it just, you know. So we're just wondering where does this fall? You know, how do we
Board of Health.
wrap yeah, I know. And what are regulations about this, even before a project goes through, you know? How are you going to handle, if you're going to make noise, how are you going to handle that? You got to put up a sound barrier there? You know,
It's more of a mediation.
Yeah.
Type of approach
Yeah.
for the Board of Health.
yeah,
We had an issue across the street
right.
and, you know, we addressed that issue with that individual. We purchased a noise meter and went out while it was going on. And we, measured the noise. Jack and I measured the
Oh,
noise. And I spoke with the individual,
Yeah.
with regards to that, you know, in the project this size, I mean, surely if, you know, you're being disturbed by the noise, all I can say is to call, we'll go out there. And then my best approach is to have open line of communication and to have them realize, you know, the impact on the neighborhood itself, and to look at ways that we can, you know, that we can maybe schedule a time frame and say, okay, guys, they're gonna jack in between 1 and 2, go take a ride somewhere if that's possible, just so that, you know, it doesn't interfere with the quiet enjoyment of the property. Those are really, you know, that's the approach that the board has. If it continues to become a nuisance, as far as, you know, they're not willing to work with the board, then we would contact the DEP, ask for their assistance.
Yeah, and I think they did kind of change their approach.
Yes, they did.
Right, they kind of worked more uphill for a while and kind of broke it up, so it wasn't constantly right by the side of the road.
Mhm.
Now we're back to that again. It's still going to be happening because they have to blast and then hammer away, you know, loosen it up. So if I were them, I think a few more extra water tests wouldn't be a big deal. Kind of.
This
You
project.
gotta
is
do
a
it right.
couple
Be a good
million,
neighbor.
Maybe tens of millions, right?
Yeah.
We're asking just
Yeah.
to. you know,
$200 for
Yeah.
a test.
Oh, yeah. No. Very minor in the scheme of things.
Yeah, and, you know, at this junction, we have no reason to believe that we're not gonna get some cooperation.
Sure.
So, you know, that's really the way we have to approach it is, you know, we'll get educated in what we're talking about from the experts. And then we'll express your concerns and the Board of Health's concerns, the Conservation Committee's concerns. And we'll find some common ground so that everybody gets what they want.
Thanks.
And Carl has his hand up.
Yep. Uh, the select board has a time for citizens to express concerns about issues. I'd recommend that you go and say, maybe the town needs a noise ordinance that's more robust than we have. I mean, there's a sort of gentleman's agreement. You don't do run lawnmowers and leaf blowers before 7 or 8 a.m., but maybe the town should have something written in as regulations or a new town bylaw.
Okay.
That's a great,
idea.
that's a great
Good call.
suggestion.
Right.
And
It's,
gosh, wouldn't it be nice if the town had a bylaws committee?
But that's a great suggestion. I'm sure the select board would, welcome your situation and take it under advisement and, do what they can.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah, there currently is not a noise.
No.
Ordinance by.
Right, but we have in the.
Other than what we can
Yeah.
enforce.
Right. The noise nuisance
Mhm.
clause.
And the planning board, when they're reviewing things like the 23 Cape Road warehouse project, they were sensitive to citizens' noise concerns and built that into their plan.
As Colleen mentioned, noise is under our purview.
All right, so hopefully we'll see you
Thank you.
gentlemen
Yeah,
at
thanks a
our
lot.
next
Yeah,
meeting.
Yep, we'll
And
be here.
feel free to
Hmm.
bring your neighbors.
Okay.
Everybody can hear the story at the same time and,
Right.
offer, I'm sure everybody has a slightly different experience. We'll see what we can get going.
Thank you again. Yeah. Time.
Absolutely. And, if in the meantime, you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay.
Truly.
Carl, thank you very much for being on board.
Oh, I'm sticking around for the next agenda item too.
All right.
All right.
Hey, thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Now, good luck. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. The only thing that's going to be done, the pre-testing, is one round of post-testing at 45 days.
Yeah.
That's where it sits right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what the Concom heard at our last meeting, and they were very firm on that was what they were planning on doing and not doing anything further.
Okay.
I mean, given, we had to talk it through a bit further, but I wouldn't see any reason why the Board of Health couldn't step forward and kind of help with some additional further testing periodically just for these few.
Well, that would be a
Homes to help.
conversation tomorrow morning.
And again, I think it's the scale
Mhm.
of the operation that would dictate how much. This is not your normal residential type situation.
Mhm.
I know in the past when there's been some blasting on Blackstone Street, and I believe it was done for the highway department so they could redo the road. I believe at that time it was Atlantic blasting prior to becoming main drilling and blasting. And they were very good. They were very, good with anybody along the way that was concerned. I believe, I was told by one of the representatives that in some situations they take photos at that time. This is a number of years ago. They take photos of someone's foundation,
Absolutely.
front walkway, things like that.
Yep.
So they have different protocols that they use depending upon what's appropriate. So I have no reason to believe we can't work this out. All right. Next item, if there isn't anybody that has any questions on the blasting concerns, we're gonna move on to 3537 Hastings Street project update discussion. Hey, Tom.
Oh, me?
Do you? This is your topic.
My topic. What am I discussing? Am I supposed to be providing something specific?
You went to some meeting with Tom Ryder.
Well, we kind of talked about that the last
Right, yeah.
meeting.
But Alan wasn't here, so you wanted to hold off until,
Oh, okay. Did we hold off on that whole discussion?
yes.
Oh, we did. I'm sorry.
Educate me.
Okay, so I just provided an update that previously regarding this project, I had attended the planning board meeting when the last meeting, public hearing they had about the project. And Tom Ryder was also in attendance as well. And just to answer any potential questions that might have, come forth either from, the applicant or those listening in or what have you. And anything that might have come through, from the planning board itself. So there are a couple of general questions that, came out, the planning board put to Tom. Overall, there wasn't anything from an engineering perspective that would alter the scope of the project as presented to the planning board. And given that, the planning board did approve the project to move forward. But now, of course, as we move forward with this, groups such as Board of Health and Carl's group at Concom, all the different groups that'll have a hand in the processes as this project moves forward with the details, that's where we'll need to make sure that things happen where they need to happen. And from our perspective, it's about really the engineering elements with this project. One of the things that may not have been in the last bit of information you saw is Tom did recommend a mounting analysis be incorporated into the process. I don't know if you were
I remember reading.
Okay.
So,
So the goal from our perspective is to kind of keep this in the forefront as the project moves forward, keep an open line of communication between Tom, Jack and ourselves, so we can keep abreast of the project. There's a lot of concern from the residents in the area with regard to that property, how the water is currently now. A lot of folks have issues with, a lot of water in the basement as it is now. And the concern is with this project being what it is, how will that affect or potentially affect neighbors? So the goal would be that any engineering that gets introduced into the project is not going to negatively impact those around.
Yeah, we have Carl with his hand raised.
Yep. I don't know the technical details of what mounding is, but I do know that it's something that Isabella and people on the Concom were concerned about. We did engage Graves to do a peer review, same person who did the peer review for the planning board, and they came back and basically said, nope, the numbers that the applicant has are good for the mounding. You'd have to check in with Isabella for a more technical one. So on the mounding one has been addressed. The other concern that we heard during the Concom meeting, the public hearing that might be relevant to the Board of Health is that all of the stormwater and all of the septic is going through a single point of failure. Both the building in front, that's going to be the commercial building, and the housing, it looks like they're all using, they're all going to the same kind of areas. And I don't know if there's an additional level of scrutiny you want to do in terms of that many houses all connected and tied into the same kind of septic system and the same public water supply. And again, the Concom has jurisdiction within 100 foot of the wetlands, and we're also focusing on the well and the stormwater management that goes into the wetlands. The Board of Health might have other issues with other parts of the site in addition to what the planning board is doing.
Well, I think Tom Ryder will be on top of, with the review of the septic system, and he's, I'm sure, very conscious of, the stormwater management of it. And if he had any issues or any concerns, I'm sure he'd bring them forward to the board.
I know from the
Joyce too, sorry, Tom, and Joyce too, just being, with her expertise.
Yeah, and she was right there in the field,
Yep.
so.
I think
was-
I think we have good coverage.
I know with in the last meeting, it was we had a gentleman in attendance,
Mr. Kraus. Yep.
And I think we had put forth the opportunity for him to send an email to us that would then, with his concerns, which would then go to
Yes.
Tom Ryder.
Correct.
Did that happen?
That did happen. And that was the one where you came into the office and he added one more to that bulleted list item that you had. And that's what you presented to the planning board.
No, I think we're talking about something different from the very last Board of Health meeting that we had. when Jay was here, Colleen
He
was
was going
talking,
to send an email over with his questions so that we could send them to
so
Tom.
you could send them to.
I don't think that I received it from. Mr.
So he
Kraus.
may not have ever sent.
Yeah.
Something. Okay.
Who's from Washington Street?
What's that?
Who's from Washington?
He lives
Street?
on Washington.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was going to send over because he was discussing it with us and,
Right.
you know, and there was he had a lot of concerns, so we suggested, why don't you reduce them to writing? We'll get them over to Tom and then Tom can address them and, and we can get you some answers.
And I'll email Mr. Kraus tomorrow to follow up.
Yeah.
I don't believe I received it.
We just want to make sure we, continue to follow up.
No,
and,
absolutely.
We have to address concerns as fast as we can. I know Tom has a lot on his plate, but, yeah. Is there anything else I missed? That I might have forgotten?
I think so.
Let's see.
I just have one question for you, Kyle.
Yep.
The snow storage and de-icer runoff, that comes under you guys, right?
When it's affecting runoff that go into the wetlands, yes, we did have a discussion with them about where they were going to be having snow stored. Their first plan did not have a sufficient place. They went in and revised it. Isabella can confirm whether that issue was addressed. And we asked about snow removal. They're going to have a guardrail coming from the subdivision going around and down to the front of the parcel. And they said, no, they wouldn't be pushing snow up against the guardrail. They would take the snow away from that sensitive area within 100 feet of the wetlands and removing it to their other snow storage location.
Okay, so in the design, they have storage for all this.
On one of the many site plan documents, there is something that talks about where they are going to where they're going to, stick the snow while it melts. Where I stockpile it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
one of the questions we have is the stockpile concentrates all of the road salt and other de-icing material. Are you sure that when that melts and it runs off, that it is going to go into a stormwater wastewater management filter? And the answer is yes, that they are now going to go through the filtering that the parking lot does.
Yeah, it's better that it comes on the conservation. Okay.
Well, or planning board.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think all local boards, where we're experiencing projects that we haven't experienced before,
Mhm.
the scale of the projects.
Yes.
So collaboration amongst the boards is probably more important than it's ever been, because we can help each other deal with the scale of these projects.
The other help is I now have professional staff, and she has just finished writing a 10-page order of conditions that the applicant is reviewing, and then we hope to finalize it tomorrow night. So that's a big difference from last year when we basically had no ability to respond to the 23 Cape Road project, other than to say, please, planning board, take over for us.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else you wanted to add, Carl, for this topic?
Nope. Hastings looks to be in good shape, and we are using the lessons we learned on Uxbridge Road and previous and the Cape Road project, and saying no. We're making sure in our new order of conditions that we are at least preventing all of the procedural issues we've had in the past.
Awesome.
All right, if there's nothing else on that topic, we'll move on. Subscriber trash recycling enterprise fund.
Thank you, Carl, unless you want to stay
Yep.
on for the next topic.
Nope. I've got fun stuff to do for the evening. And I sent an email to you and Isabella summarizing my participation in the meeting, so you can reach out with her in the next couple days.
All right, thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir.
Bye.
Enjoy your evening.
Tom, I hope you took copious notes from our meeting with Colleen, Jody, and I with Jody.
Well, because this was on the agenda of the last meeting.
Yeah.
we opted to pass over because we didn't have.
Alan.
My recommendation would be to follow suit
Hmm.
and pass until we have Joyce with us.
Okay.
Okay.
But I did take copious notes.
Okay.
I think I did.
And the meeting was between,
Colleen, Tom, me, Jody, and Eric Kinshef.
And also
Oh, Sean, whatever his,
Yeah.
Eric's
Eric's-
partner.
And Jean was there too.
Oh, Jean Bertha was
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
in this meeting.
Yeah.
uh, okay,
It was very productive.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, you know, I mean, we clarified a lot of concerns and questions that everyone had, really. I thought it was very productive.
I look forward to hearing about it. Okay, so BOH admin updates,
All right, I got
moving right
you.
along.
All right, so on the issue of the legal dumping in respect to Eversource parcel on Providence Street, I followed up with Peter Bowman from the Eversource, and they are targeting at the end of June or early July to finish up, putting up the gates and clearing it out.
Cool.
We are all set for Saturday, June 22nd for the Fort Town Energy Recycling Event at Miskell Hill School, and that's gonna be from 10 AM to 2 PM. I did provide an updated PDF version as Green Team kind of designed a postcard without letting Colleen nor I proofing it beforehand. So they had the wrong location for the event. But we alerted the other towns to let them know, like, let them know that that's gonna be in Mendon. Green Team Junk is gonna have 2 people at that site in Blackstone to tell people, sorry, you need to go to Mendon type of thing. You want to add anything to that? No? Okay.
No, I mean, it just, they put the DPW in Blackstone and with the town hall address though. So,
Yeah, see, I recognized the address, but I didn't recognize it. I'm
yeah,
like, maybe the DPW was way in the,
But we are also meeting with Fred tomorrow morning.
yeah, we're meeting with them
To look at
tomorrow
the
morning.
location again.
Yep.
okay.
So we'll get, we have it under. control.
Okay, so everybody's gonna update their website.
Yes,
Yep, it's already, I
With 2
I
people
printed
down
up,
there, that should catch anybody.
correct.
I printed up a bunch of flyers. They've been passing them out up at the recycling center in Blackstone because that's a pretty busy place. I put some at the library. Also put some up in the collector treasurer's office because they're collecting water bills right now. So I
Ah, sweet.
figured, you know, people coming in just to get the word out. We have
Sure.
it up on our Facebook page, the Board of Health Facebook page. So
And last but not least, just a reminder for hazardous waste day and document shredding for the town residents is Saturday, August 24th from 9 AM to 12 PM with the highway department. And that's all I got.
Any new news on the landfill regarding work on the drain? Are we still? the same?
Not from John Dudley, no.
Page and updates.
as I alluded to earlier, tomorrow morning, Jack and I will meet with Mr. Redden because in the process of the jackhammering, they discovered a cesspool that they had not marked out prior to the jackhammer, and so the cesspool was exposed. And they had to have it pumped. It's covered right now, so we're going to be having a conversation with him tomorrow about that. There was no notification to the Board of Health, and I was a little concerned about that. I found out from it to another Patty and sent an email to Mr. Redden immediately, and he acknowledged it. So Steve Donatelli will also be in that meeting tomorrow, and we may go up there as well.
Okay, Mr. Reardon, who does he actually work for?
Tetra Tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the company that is hired to do,
To monitor, I mean, he's the project manager.
all right, so they're monitoring the project.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
So have a conversation with him, and I'm sure that it will be a positive one.
Mhm.
And we can discuss the concerns for the residents, and if that, he's not comfortable, you know, with having that conversation tomorrow morning, then, you know, we'll put it to an individual who is comfortable having that conversation, and then we'll put it, we have it on the board's agenda.
very good.
So the issues will be addressed. We also had a complaint about jackhammering, not there, across the street. And the residents were exposed to it. The individual, that was doing the jackhammer and the property owner, I had spoken with him like the week before, or something, right? And he assured me that, you know, the project was completed and, in the meantime, we purchased a noise meter. And, then we got a call from one of the neighbors. Jack and I went up there and we measured it. And, I had another conversation with them, and the jackhammer is no longer.
Was that a septic system that was being?
No. There's jackhammering out ledge, because I think that he may be looking to expand or build something there.
His garage, expanding his garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what did the other meter actually show you? Result?
Moderate activity,
Moderate.
moderate, yeah. Went down the driveway of, you know, here's the property, went down this driveway, went down this driveway. And it was moderate. I mean, the other thing too is that we alerted the town administrator's office, because he does not have an earth removal permit, and that's required because he was hauling what was jackhammer off of the property, and you need a permit to do that. So we made the town administrator's office aware of that. I asked him first if he had a permit first. He said no, and I said FYI, and that permitting authority is the Board of Selectmen. And I also let the property owner know that I would be contacting the Board of Selectmen, through the town administrator's office, and making them aware of it. So that's, you know, and addressing the previous individual's concerns with regards to noise, it's a nuisance, and that does fall underneath the Board of Health. And, you know, our job, really, we're mediators. Is what I would go out, talk to both sides, you know, address the concerns, and hopefully we come to some sort of an accord. You know, if we don't, then, you know, we can utilize the DEP's office to assist us, kind of like what we did last year
Copart?
with COPAT.
Yeah.
So, with regard to noise and Carl's thought about, a noise bylaw,
Mhm.
what was your take on that?
I mean, I think that there should be one, and there should be a time frame. It's been my experience that, you know, the time frame, I can speak to the one I'm most familiar with, is, you know, it's 11 PM to 6 AM. You know, that's the most common time frame, but that's not going to help these individuals you know, during the day.
Yeah, I mean, because time wise, I mean, they're not performing these things in late hours, but the issue is just that the frequency and the consistency of the noise ongoing during the daytime, and a lot of people are now home.
Well, our dumpster regulations have a time frame in,
Mm-hmm.
so that at 2 o'clock in the morning, someone's not having their dumpster emptied.
Correct.
No, point being is that the activity, the time isn't the issue here. It's the activity,
Right.
Right.
right? That's
Well,
the point. So how do you mitigate?
Normal business hours during construction.
Well, or that, or you try, for me anyway, it would be to work, if, you know, with the neighbors and say, listen, they have the permits for the project.
Right.
So the only thing that we can do is speak with them about a time frame. Okay, guys, understand you have to move forward with your project. Do you think that maybe we could be done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or not start until 9 to 2 type of thing. That's best case scenario for us.
Right.
Is to try and come to some sort of a time frame. Let the neighbors know, hey, listen, they have the permit, so the project is moving forward, but we've discussed it with them, and we've narrowed the time frame down to 9 to 2. You know.
Well, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but we're experiencing projects of a scale that
Absolutely.
we're not used to experiencing.
Correct.
Whether it be someone who is on a board or a committee
Mhm.
as part of the municipality, or a resident.
Yeah.
We're just kind of men that we're just not used to experiencing things of this scale that go on for this period of time.
Yeah.
You know, you could have the same amount of activity going on, but it only goes on for a week. You can get through it.
Mhm.
It goes on for a month. A year.
Absolutely.
It just, you know,
Right, and it's their quiet enjoyment of their property as well, so, you know, and that's best case scenario for us. You know, is to keep the line of communication open, both sides, that's most important.
Can you implement, so when talking about communication, right, keeping lines of communication open? And with regard to all the various groups in a town that exist, right, that touch a lot of these things. Um, can, can you implement, I guess, a contract without actually having something being in a bylaw or regulation with an entity that's going to do a project of this scale that factors in something like noise? That says, as part of your project, in factoring in, we understand these things are going to have to happen. This is how you, this would be the agreed upon process that you need to follow
Mhm.
with regard to noise. Is that, is that feasible to do?
It depends upon who the permitting authority is and what their level of jurisdiction is,
well, and it's not just.
so, and what their scope is.
I heard an example today of a project that there's an order of conditions. I don't know who issued the order of conditions, whether it was planning, building, whatever, that in this small neighborhood, if there's going to be traffic issues, they have to give the residents 24 hours notice
Mhm.
that there is going to be traffic concerns in this particular area for whatever period of time so that they can do what they need to do.
Mhm.
So some board put that as a condition to getting their permit.
Police,
So I don't see why
Right.
police, fire.
right, because that's a safety issue and they have jurisdiction over the public ways in the town. So, yeah, it would be any project that, you know, that requires the board's review. I mean, the Board of Health has the most broad paintbrush, you know, as far as the health and what falls underneath the health, the umbrella of the health and welfare of our community. So
And what
moving
comes,
forward, we could, you
what
know.
comes to mind will be one of the next big projects coming up.
Mhm.
Hastings, I don't know what that will entail. It's probably not like what's happening, you know, having a blast ledge per se, but
Same side of the road.
Mm,
so you wonder, in keeping this fresh in our minds, if an OOC is something that we may want to implement from our perspective, given that our domain of noise in the process of this project moving forward, that it would have to be followed. But we don't, you know, run into.
Yeah, you know, that project, I don't know what they're gonna come up against. I would say, you know, traffic concerns on 16 at rush hour in the morning and the afternoon is probably gonna be the biggest inconvenience up there, cause it's already really tough. But the same concerns could come about when the state redoes that part of 16,
mhm.
Yeah.
you know, so I think.
Do
And
we have any domain with the states involved?
Anyway,
Any kind of authority when the state, if it's a state project at all?
other than having an open line of communication.
How did I know that would be the case?
hey, it works.
It does work.
Key. It's key
You know,
to,
it
it's
takes-
the
it
key
takes
to
time.
everything.
It takes patience,
Yes,
but it does work.
Yeah.
And when it works well, it's very gratifying.
right. And, you know, and you have, you know, a fair approach to it too. You know, I mean, it can't be totally one-sided.
No, I mean, you know, things are approved, things have to move forward.
Right.
Projects are gonna have to get done, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and I think projects like that have seemed to, even though they're an inconvenience, have have seemed to run a little better.
Mhm.
We've got message boards now, and we've got, you know, different forms of communication, say, to let you know, I mean, they redid the hospital intersection. They redid the one in Hopedale.
Yeah.
Now they're moving along. Granted, it's an inconvenience or it takes you a little more time, but those message boards are wonderful,
Mhm.
especially if that is your route. They give you plenty of notice
Yeah.
that, you know, when that construction is gonna start and how many lanes you're gonna go down to. So if you're paying attention to the information that's out there, it works well. I know in town, when John Dudley recently had to close Blackstone Street to repair a pipe. I mean, it was wonderful. If you sign up for the alerts, you knew that Blackstone Street was gonna be shut down
Right.
between, 7 and 4 that day.
Right. Yeah, right.
Where
Seek an
it was gonna
alternate
be shut
route.
down, so you could plan accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you had to be signed up for those alerts, but you knew what you were in for that day.
Mhm.
And he kept to it.
Yeah.
As far as the hours that he was allotted, he kept to that. And got the job done. So we're getting better.
It's very important. Communication is very important.
All right.
If we sent out a letter to all of the permitted, solid, waste hauling companies in town that have dumpsters, because we've received numerous complaints about different dumpsters, throughout the town. So we sent out a, letter to all our dumpster companies, reminded them of the dumpster regulations and what their responsibilities were with regard if they had a dumpster in town. Jack and I went around town and, worked out pretty well.
What were the, like, the nature of the complaints?
The lids weren't down or no lids. The garbage was overflowing. There were things beside the dumpsters that shouldn't be there. Just some of the dumpsters, I mean, they need to be replaced. So that letter went out and then they paid attention to it. Yep. The AG's office came out with a letter also. We're gonna be sending this out to our permitting, the stores that are permitted for tobacco, for CBD and THC. They finally made a stand. They cannot sell those products in their retail stores. So they'll all be getting a letter letting them know that this is the AG's decision. In Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you should not have this in your store. We've been out doing inspections and we've found it and advised them, that they're not permitted to sell that in Massachusetts. Now we have a little bit more teeth because the AG's office actually put something in writing and now we have something that we can forward to them. So once they're notified, and if we go in and the product is in there, that will be a violation.
Okay, is that anything that we have to state in our tobacco regulations?
No, we don't have to state that. We don't have to revise our tobacco regulations. That's Mass General law now.
Okay, so, but there are stores in town, not the tobacco license stores. that
Yes,
can sell.
tobacco, like, no one can sell it.
No one can sell it.
No. Nope. Nope, these products, no one can sell.
Okay.
But they were being sold in some of our stores, retail stores that have tobacco permits.
Interesting.
Mm.
Okay.
I got the contact information for Hartford Ave West. I plan on calling that individual and going down and have a conversation with them. Also, took pictures. Jack and I went down and took pictures of the structure, sent them to the building commissioner with concern and to the fire department. Said, hey, this is the structure. This is what it looks like. You might want to take a look at it because that's beyond us. Down in the back of that yard, there wasn't a lot that I could see. There was a no trespassing sign, so I did not go past that sign. And like I said, I want to contact the individual, but I saw some stuff, that's down there that I'm going to address, but I got the name of the owner of the property. It's a Mr. Stewart. So I plan on calling him. Ellen we contacted Ellen's office and Ellen provided us with the information. So I'll be having a conversation shortly with them. 11 Wood Drive resolved itself. They cleaned it up. Jack and I went up there. That's the house that caught on fire. It's actually, I spoke with the property owner and the daughter. I actually went up there one day and the daughter was actually there, so it was worked out perfectly. And they're gonna be selling that house on Friday to a contractor. And the contractor is gonna tear down the garage. Also spoke with the neighbor that had concerns about it and advised the neighbor as well. But a contractor is gonna renovate that house. They are not returning to that house. 40 North Avenue, the property did convey. I had a conversation with the property owner and also with the closing attorney. Apparently there was some misinformation that was relayed to me. I addressed it with the new property owner in a letter. We sent it out by regular and certified mail, waiting for a response from the individual.
Was that the property we thought we might expect to see somebody here tonight?
No, that's Northbridge Road. That gentleman was
Northbridge,
supposed to be here and obviously it's a no-show, so I'll be following up with that.
Okay.
And just the food trucks. I mean, we're in full-blown food truck season. And I've been up at Vandervalk on Friday nights and on Sundays, inspecting the trucks. And spoke with the fire chief and the fire department with regards to the separation of the vehicles, including the truck, if they're a tow, if it's a food trailer, the vehicle that's towing it also needs to be removed. The generator setback that includes to the building, the food trailer, when the vehicle that's towing it is separated, to chalk the wheels. So we sent an email to Lisa. They're great to work with. I mean, they're really, we've kind of embraced each other and, so that they have a positive event and, and we make sure that the safety is there. And it's really worked out really, really well. Great, just a great family to work with. And other than all of that.
That's it?
That's all we got.
We've
Great.
been busy. We've been very, very busy.
Right. Anything else? Any questions for Colleen? No, we don't have anybody out there. Okay.
Nobody else is on.
All right, topics not anticipated within 48 hours.
I do not have any.
The only thing I'd bring up is actually something that came up this afternoon in the office talking with Jack. I don't know how we go about implementing it, but the topic of viewpoint came up and how we go about using viewpoint. And it kind of had to do with, kind of related to 147 Hartford Ave with regard to the type of business. So you might be able to explain more in detail, but in looking at what Jack looks at for filling out, for answering questions that are in there, there's no delineation in there for whether the business is a retail business or not a retail business. And I thought it might not be a bad idea to modify that so that we do know whether it's a retail or not a retail, because it's a retail business. Now there's products that come under our domain that we might want to make sure we're aware of and that they're permitted for, food being one, tobacco being another. It also might, give us a heads up to know too, what somebody is planning to do with that, like in the case of this convenience store, what they are planning to put on their shelves. So it's a quote unquote record knowledge from, the town's perspective. I thought that something that can all happen behind the scenes with you and Dan, right? Because Dan does.
Dan does the viewpoint.
Yeah, he admins.
Voting.
I thought that could be a benefit to have just a little bit more data in there. Couple more questions.
Guys at all? You.
No, I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah,
If it's
so
a
I mean-
commercial permit for
Yeah,
store, like a retail store, non-retail store. Like if Cohesion had that option, where I'm a retail store going to be selling tobacco,
Right, lottery,
Yeah.
all
there's
that.
no regulations, and maybe if time down the road in September came up, like, oh, he's building a building, we're having tobacco regulations discussion, you may want to be a part of that.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, information, communication.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, retail could be retail anything.
Anything, yeah.
Right. I mean, it could be an auto parts store, which
Yeah,
would
clothing,
concern us,
everything.
Yeah.
but, you know,
That way we could just see if there's anything that would fall under our.
well,
Like if they're selling liquor, they have to apply to the town administrator to get a liquor license.
and with the different projects that we know that are coming online eventually,
Mhm.
that would apply to most likely quite a few of the commercial occupants of these buildings.
Yeah.
I actually was in Bellingham and I was watching inspectional services inspect all the refrigerators,
Oh, yeah.
and it was a supermarket, so there
Yep.
were a lot of refrigerators.
Oh, yeah,
And I'm saying to myself, we're gonna have a super,
absolutely.
so we're gonna have to be prepared for the scale of Board of Health operations. I mean, I can't imagine how long it takes to go through a grocery store.
Oh, well, I mean, I did it and when it was in Blackstone.
Okay,
So
so
I'm
how
gonna
long
be,
does it take to go through a grocery store like that? Is that a day job?
no, 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 but it's definitely, you know,
Say at least a half a day,
right.
everything you gotta check out.
Yeah.
I mean.
Product, all the product, basically.
Sometimes, I mean, you know, I mean, you do
hot
half
things, you
and,
got cold things, you got.
but I would break it, like, I would only do half and then go back another day, because you don't want to stay in there for the whole day, because then it's like anything, you know, like when you read something, when you draft something and you're writing something and you think that you typed it, but you really didn't. So that's why,
Concentration.
that's right. So that's why I do half and then I'd go back and do the other half. So I might just do all the refrigeration and then go back and just do all of the shelving or vice versa. That's how I break it up.
I'm thinking of all the areas that have sinks. And I mean, I'm just aware of what's in the store. Out back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's a whole
Yeah,
other.
and then you're gonna go around the perimeter.
Mhm.
So I'm like, must take forever. to do
Yeah.
A grocery store.
I mean,
And that's something we don't have yet.
no. But at least we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be depending upon the size of the store too. I mean, I don't know how big this one's gonna be. That might be, it may be, you know, a 2-day job. May very well be.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing we have you on board.
There you
Thank
go.
Get ready.
Oh, yeah, that, you know, I don't know how big that store's
Did
gonna
we
be.
have roller skates?
You what?
Roller skate.
Skates so
Oh,
you
yeah,
can get
yeah.
from one bridge to the next quick.
Yeah, well, you have to go down all the shelving. I mean, you have to check the cans for dents and dates and,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
know
I
what I
was
mean?
sticking his head in and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
looking up at the top. Moisture.
That's Dylan, right? Dylan
Yeah,
Bellingham, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's a good kid.
I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Put on here, good and welfare for the board.
Actually, the only thing I had was actually Colleen mentioned her update. With regard to the notice about the CBD and the.
Yeah, yeah, I'm finally, I mean, we were like, finally,
finally.
thank you.
Now, in Hood Plaza, don't we have a store that sells CBD?
Yeah, but they're, you know, they're licensed.
So they're licensed, and what was that license called?
Well, they get a license from the state.
Okay.
Yep.
So they can sell it.
Mm-hmm. But certain products they can't, like, you know, like in Massachusetts, you know, menthol. And there's a few very specific products that they cannot sell.
You want to take it up a notch from that, you gotta go to a registered dispensary.
Yep.
Okay. I got it in order now.
I did want to mention to the board that Danielle Markman, the Blackstone Valley
Yeah.
Partnership health agent, is no longer going to be amended. He is moving to Canada. So today was his last day amended.
Okay.
So,
There is a replacement. Her name is Emily.
Yep,
Okay.
and she's already been in Mendon. Yep. She has the same credentials.
Okay, we'll have to,
Her specialty is summer camps and pools.
Mhm.
She is a certified pool inspector, which we don't have any in Mendon, but I have two in Blackstone.
yeah, I think Danielle Edmonds was certified. with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
She had a lot of certifications. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
so what's been done over the years when people have done pools?
Oh, no, we're talking about municipal pools.
Oh, I mean, this.
Public
Like a
pools.
YMCA type of pool. type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, those have to
DCR
be
stuff.
inspected. You know, like the Boys and Girls Club, they have a pool that has to be inspected. And then based upon the capacity, that dictates how many lifeguards they have to have. And, you know, it's very, very thorough. There's very specific requirements, as there should be.
Yeah, if the water's not taken care of, a lot of things can go wrong.
Right,
quick.
well, you have to test it, you know, there's the chemical
Right, you got
testing.
locker rooms that have
Yep.
to be inspected.
Yep. Yep.
Things like that, okay.
Yep.
All right, good, so I look forward to meeting Emily.
Emily,
Emily.
yep.
Is that it?
That's it for my side.
All right, next meeting,
June 26th,
7:30.
7:30.
I can't think of anything else. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll step down in second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.